Let's go live to Adenta, where the heads and proprietors of private and second cycle institutions are having a press conference on the free senior high school policy. Speaking now is Joseph Jamesi. He's the General Secretary of the association.
To complement the efforts of government in providing access to secondary education for Ghanaian children. In 2005, when the computer placement system was first introduced, a junior high school graduate had to score an aggregate of at least 24 in 6 subject areas in order to qualify for placement into public senior high schools. In 2010, the cutoff aggregate for placement into public senior high schools was extended to aggregate 30. The only way that students who scored above aggregate 24 and above aggregate 30 were able to access secondary education was through private senior high schools. Over the years, thousands of Ghanaian children have accessed quality secondary education through private senior high schools. There are many doctors, engineers, accountants, teachers, nurses, and lawyers, and etc. in Ghana today who will not have achieved their dreams without private senior high schools. Private senior high schools are therefore partners with government in the provision of quality secondary education for the Ghanaian child. Today, we have about 280 private senior high schools in Ghana, enrolling over 50,000 Ghanaian children. These are rare quality schools that do a job that public schools cannot do all by themselves. Sometimes we admit students into our schools, students from junior high schools whose academic fundamentals are quite weak. Students who may not be placed in public schools because their grades are not good enough. The average BECE aggregate you'll find in many private senior high schools will be around aggregate 36. These are students who could not enter public senior high schools because there were no vacancies to admit them, or could not have real chances to excel in typical third-tier public schools, mainly because the third-tier public schools are badly resourced. In private senior high schools, we take in these students and provide the level of individual attention, motivation, and belief that they need to succeed. The level of supervision you will get in our schools is second to none, and therefore, with top quality teachers at our disposal, we are able to produce very good results. For instance, in the 2017 WASI, we had private high schools that recorded 8 A's, 8 A1s, 7 A1s, 6 A1s, and etc. We had students from private SHSs that gained admission into medical schools and other top programs in our public and private universities. Some of our schools recorded over 80% in A1 to C6 passes in core mathematics, when the national average was only 42.73%. Members of the media, our point is that private senior high schools are not substandard schools. If we admitted the same quality of students as the top-tier public senior high schools, we will produce equally great results. At a basic level, private schools are producing top-class students that feed the so-called top-tier schools in this country. So why will anybody doubt that we can produce same at a high school level? For parents across Ghana, our role as private senior high schools is to help provide quality high school education for your children. We therefore want to use this medium to appeal to you to seriously consider sending your wards to private senior high schools across the country for a better future. Parents, we believe that it will be dangerous for you to accept admission to any public school only because that school is free. the West African Examination Council is not lowering their standards because of free education. The student in a top-tier public school will be writing the same examination as the one in a deprived third-tier community school somewhere. And therefore, we ask parents to do their research and make sure the schools you are accepting admission to for your children has the history and the quality to improve the lives of your children. Otherwise, we ask you to look through the newspapers for CHOPS schools in good standing, and we ask you to seriously consider paying a little to secure your war's future in a private senior high school. Another vital role that private senior high schools have played over the years is to provide employment for many teachers across the country. Currently, private SHS employs over 10,000 teaching and non-teaching staff, and collectively, we contribute over 60 million Ghana cedis to the national income of Ghana yearly. The impact of these numbers on the larger economy cannot be overstated. It is important that private senior high schools continue to be such reliable employment avenues going forward, since government alone will not be able to employ and adequately pay all teaching professionals in Ghana, especially the quality graduate teachers that we have in our private schools. Concerns with the implementation of the free SHS program. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, CHOPS wants to register our complete disappointment with the way the government is implementing the free education policy. We consider the development so far as undermining the contribution of private SHS in the educational sector. It is as though the government is intentionally trying to collapse all private SHS in this country. Before the implementation, we had been made to believe that even with free SHS, private senior high schools had a role to play. We thought we could continue to partner with government to make a difference in the lives of Ghanaian children. At various fora, it has been stated that free SHS was a form of a scholarship program and therefore will be available to only students who qualify. That is to say, only students who qualify will be covered under the free SHS policy. We thought the requirements to qualify meant junior high school graduates must meet a minimum cut-off, say aggregate 30, in order to be placed by the computerized placement system so as to enjoy the free SHS. Unfortunately, this did not happen. Over the past years, the computerized school selection and placement system, CSSPS, posted some students to private senior high schools. As has been the practice, CHOPS prepared an updated list of member schools and presented this list to CSSPS with the understanding that, as has been done over the recent years, some students will be posted to private senior high schools. As we have all discovered, only students who scored a grade of 9 in mathematics or English were disqualified from placement into public schools. And for the first time, not one student was posted to a private school. What does it say about governments? What does it say about government's regard for private SHS when she is ready to post 92% of students who graduated from the JHS into public senior high schools and pay all their fees? Which students will patronize the private SHS? What is to happen to the millions of Ghana cedis that has been invested into our schools? What is to happen to 10,000 plus Ghanaian workers who are currently employed in our schools? What is government's plan to provide a platform that gives our schools a realistic chance to thrive? Proposals to government. We believe that every attempt must be made to protect the existence of private senior high schools, since it is clear that government alone cannot absorb all JHS students who graduate yearly. If all private SHS close down, access to secondary education for over 50,000 students currently enrolled in private SHS will be jeopardized. It is also clear that private senior high schools contribute significantly, not only to the educational sector, but also in the areas of job creation and to the growth of the economy. We therefore call on government to, as a matter of urgency, one, include private SHS among the schools listed on the self-placement website. Our schools should be tagged private, and parents should be informed that when a private school is selected, the student will have to pay the school fees. With this, a student who may not be happy with his or her placement, or a student who is not able to find a school that he or she likes, may select a private school on that website and go to that private school. Secondly, we call on government to extend its policy on free SHS to cover students in private senior high schools also. We understand that government may not want to invest directly into private schools. We therefore suggest that the amount of money earmarked per student to attend senior high schools be granted to the student, whether he or she attends a public or private senior high school. The investment is in the Ghanaian child, not in the school. Such a system has been successfully implemented in the health sector, where government partners with private health facilities to deliver quality health services to Ghanaians. The public has the option of receiving health services either through public or private health facilities. Regardless of where health services are provided, the patient is covered under the National Health Insurance Scheme. We are calling for a system similar to what pertains in the health sector in Ghana under the National Health Insurance Scheme, which was introduced by the NPP government. We believe that a similar system can be implemented in the educational system, where government subsidies will follow students, irrespective of the institution where they access education. As an example, if a government decides that it will cost 800 Ghana cedis per term to educate a student in a public senior high school, that amount should also be made available to Ghanaian children who attend private senior high schools. If a parent needs to add 200 Ghana cedis to it in order to afford the total fees in a private senior high school, then that becomes the option of the parents. We believe a policy of this nature will be more inclusive and will make secondary education free for Ghanaian children in the public schools and more affordable to Ghanaian children who attend private senior high schools. Thirdly, we call on government and we suggest to them that although we do not expect government to build our schools for us, we believe government can support the work of private SHS by including us in the distribution of educational resources such as textbooks, computers, equipment, chemicals for science laboratories, and etc., and etc. While public schools will get these resources for free, private schools could pay a discounted price for them so government can recoup some of its investment. We are partners with government by establishing second cycle schools to supplement government's effort in ensuring that every Ghanaian child has access to secondary education. We call on government to support our efforts, but periodically assisting us to be able to deliver best quality education to the Ghanaian child. Finally, we call on government to reintroduce a more realistic cutoff point for qualification into public high schools. We need government to replicate its relationship with private entities in other sectors of the economy, with private high schools, and treat us as partners. The new Patriotic Party government is known as one that believes in private sector. The NPP government has on numerous occasions reiterated its belief in the private sector as the engine of growth for the economy. Across different sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, health, trade, and industry, government has partnered with the private sector in the delivery of quality services to Ghanaians. We firmly believe that this same partnership can and should exist in education. By reintroducing a realistic cutoff system, the government will be recognizing the contribution of private SHS and allowing us to play the complementary role that we have always played. In conclusion, we wish to state that the issues that confront private senior high schools are real and have far-reaching consequences, not only on our schools, but on secondary level education in Ghana, and hence the economy of the entire country. We hope that government will include the private sector in its educational policy and partner with private senior high schools to deliver the best senior high school education to all Ghanaian children. Thank you very much.
All right. I think the message is so clear, and we have just called on you because we know that you are the right trumpeters. You can trumpet this information for us. We're going to open the floor for ready to answer for any better information you want. So we are ready for you. If there are any questions, we're ready for you.
Question time.
I want to find out.
Okay. So that was Joseph Jamesi. He is the General Secretary of the Conference of Heads or Proprietors of Private Second Cycle Institutions, CHOPS. Now, they made 4 recommendations at the end of the press statement. These 4 are that, first of all, private SHSs should be included in the self-selection systems that are done. You remember that these self-selection systems is what is done when a student is unable to place in his 4 choices in the initial CSSPS system. They are saying that they should indicate by those schools that they are private schools and that when they go to those schools, they'll be paying. Let's go back to Adenta because now they are taking questions. So we'll come back and bring you a wrap of that after.
Government can say that they are doing fees for maybe this year. For example, 200 Ghana, you are paying. But in your case, do you have any agreed fees that all your private institutions are charging? And government can say that based on your request, you are done.
I'm taking more questions and answer all one by one.
No, yes, we can take more.
I want to ask what do you intend doing when if government refuses to give you you made a lot for order.
Right, so we would have to make way for Johnny's Interactive, but just a quick summary of the key demands which were made by the conference as the end of this press statement. I've already gone through the fact that they're demanding an inclusion in the self-selection system. They're also saying that the monies allocated to students under this program should be allocated to them whether they go to public schools or private schools. So the idea would be that if you're supposed to get 1,002 Ghana cedis, you'll be giving that money whether you go to a private school or a public school. Of course, if you go to a private school, you may have to pay more to top up your fees. They're also saying that private schools should be supported with resources under this program, under the quality and equity aspect, and a realistic cutoff point should be introduced for public schools. So that's a summary of the demands. Of course, we'll be getting more details of this in our later bulletins. My name is Daniel Dazi.